We've spoken about the importance that unions play in attempting to redress some of the power imbalances that exist between employer and employees within labour markets, and that the function of unions is to increase the strength of employees by grouping them together. That collectivism is a reaction to the individual weakness of employees. Now, in turn, it's important to understand the priorities and the importance of various types of approaches that unions might make in how they attempt to redress these imbalances, and the ways in which unions think about the management of pay. So we're going to think about some of those union approaches towards rewards. It's important, first and foremost, to understand the absolute centrality that issues of pay have for unions. That they sit at the absolute heart. William Brown talks about the way in which the management of pay, in which bargaining over pay, are of absolutely fundamental importance to the conduct of industrial relations. That they're not some side issue, they're not something that are a matter of fashion that become important and then drop away in relation to other issues. The management of pay, bargaining over pay issues, absolutely central to the employment relationship. And it's because the employment relationship as a whole focuses around the payment of labour. That it's not some kind of voluntary arrangement where people come to work and they might want to get paid, they might not. It's absolutely fundamental because of people's position in relation to what Marx would have called the means of production. That is their source of wealth. That is where they can establish a living from. So their ability to receive labour, to turn their potential value as labourers into actual monetary value, is absolutely crucial. And because it's central to the employment relationship, then it becomes the most, again, as Brown says, the most conspicuous focus of collective concern for labour. So that when employees group together, that when unions are formed on the employee side of the employment relationship, the key thing that they're interested in, the key issue, the key concern, the key issue of any day in an employment relationship is about payment for labour, the level, the nature, the mechanisms, the process. All of those things are of central and ongoing importance for labour and for labour's union organisations. So how are these expressed? What are the aims that unions have towards employees? Well, in a sense, we could almost derive this logically. We know that employees are individually weak, and so the achievement of strength within employment relationship, the way in which the employee side of the employment relationship are going to maximise their economic interests in this exchange between employer and employees, is to overcome that individual weakness. So collective strength sits at the very heart of this. So it's always about the group. It's always about the bargaining group, the bargaining unit, as opposed to an individual focus on what an individual employee might be worth in the labour market. So that focus, the strategic direction or the strategic focus of unions runs quite counter to the typical areas of concern that we've seen develop in rewards management for the last 20 or 30 years, which has been very much about identifying individual employees' worth to the organisation, their skills, their behaviours, their attitudes, what they can bring to the organisation, how much they are contributing, their performance and so on. With unions, because it has to be about the bargaining group to overcome the potential individual weakness of employees, then the focus is all about the collective. It's not about the individual. So it's about putting in place the mechanisms and structures where the wages and working conditions and all of the other associated benefits and rewards of the group can be protected and advanced. And the key aims of unions in respect of rewards, going back, and the stability of union interest and rewards is astonishing, goes back a century and more. We can look at studies from the early parts of the 20th century, and the key issues, the key strategic aims of unions are not really very different from what you would find if you were to ask unions today, would be to raise the wages of all of the members of the group involved, all of the members of the collective, to shorten the hours of work, to increase security and continuity of employment, and to secure steady and assured work for all of those in the group. So, those things remain the same. In order to achieve them, then collective bargaining becomes the key priority. Not negotiating on behalf of a single employee, because that way exposes the bargaining weakness of the weakest member, but to group together so that the power, the strength of the weakest bargainer becomes equal to the strength of the group as a whole. So it's about grouping together to say that we want what this group is worth, not what we can pick apart and find, well, this person doesn't have this skill, or this person doesn't perform very well, and so they're going to get less, and being broken up and fragmented in terms of their bargaining power. It's all about grouping together and remaining united. Unity is strength. All of these phrases, which are part of labour movement history, they mean something in terms of strategy making. Collective bargaining rests upon collective strength. So the power of the group, keeping the group united, not being split off from one another, maintaining collective bargaining arrangements, increasing the strength of your group becomes a key priority. How can you maximise the bargaining position of your group relative to others, relative to anybody else within the labour market? That is the key focus. So collective bargaining, unity of the group, not bargaining on individual employees, but on collective. These are the key strategic reward aims of unions and represent the key union approaches to rewards. And as I say, these remain ongoing priorities for unions. Waddington and Whiston's study indicated that pay remains the second most important reason that employees have for joining a union. We know, from the studies of Matheson and others, that dissatisfaction of pay is the reason for most industrial disputes, most conflict. 2/3 of all industrial disputes in the 1990s were concerned with dissatisfaction with pay. So it's really important, key concern for unions, and remains an important consideration for employees and unions as we go into the future. And these things have remained the same for a long, long time. So at base, understanding that collective concern that labour has for pay is absolutely central to understanding how they approach these issues and how they understand and interpret questions of reward.